and welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show. Let's get right to it. A lot has gone down in the nation this week with Vice President Kamala Harris selecting her running mate, her vice presidential running mate. Now, let me stop here because I know there are probably some people who are going, wait a minute, did I go to the wrong channel? What's she talking about? Well, I'm going to say this because, and I've been saying it periodically because I know that I have a lot of new subscribers or people who may not have subscribed yet, but they just kind of tune in and they're new and they don't have any idea that I don't just talk about basketball. So periodically now I'm finding that I want to say this because, again, we have a lot of wonderful new people. I'm so glad you're here. But no, I don't just talk about basketball. I've had this channel since 2021. I also write and I cover a lot of things. In fact, my tagline is A to Z, Adrienne is on it. And you'll see that in the description of this channel. It's always been there. You'll see that in my writing. A to Z, Adrienne is on it. I'm known for provoking thought and challenging ideologies and all that stuff that you see in the description. And so we're not talking about basketball today. Now, there are people who just like the basketball stuff, so they tune in for the basketball stuff. They don't want to hear about the political stuff. I talk a lot about politics, about culture, about education, about my faith as a Christian, about my life in general. It can be anything, literally A to Z. Adrienne is on it. So for the new people, you didn't hit the wrong button. I'm not a twin sister. It is I. But I am not talking about basketball today. I want to talk politics, and I want to talk about Vice President Kamala Harris's selection for her vice president. She selected the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. Now, this episode really is sort of shout out to a commenter who, is the inspiration for the title of my Substack article I wrote yesterday. And that's published on my Substack, and it's available for everyone to see. But I'm going to share it. I'm going to let that article do the talking for me. But the title was inspired by a commenter on the YouTube channel. Really catchy, really creative. Obviously, we're not going to agree at this point anyway, ideologically or politically, but I used a part of her comment to write my article, to title my article. So what do I think about Vice President Kamala Harris? What do I think about her selection of Tim Walz as her running mate? Well, I'm a conservative. I'm not a Democrat. And I have very strong feelings about this particular choice. So if you want to hang out for some political talk, let's get to it. If you're not into it, this is a good time to come back later. All right. But we're going to get into it right now. Here we go. Okay, so this is what my Substack looks like. Again, this is AdrienneRoss.substack.com. And this is where I do my writing. I used to have a column in the newspaper, and then I decided to branch off and do my own thing. And it was on WordPress. And then anyway, long story short, I ended up coming over to Substack, and you can subscribe. So AdrienneRoss.substack.com, check it out. So this is some of my articles. My podcast is also here. I wrote an article called Ballz to the Walls. Kamala Harris chooses Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, the radical obsessed with chopping off your kids' private parts, as her running mate. Vice President Kamala Harris on Tuesday announced Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. A commenter on one of my YouTube videos was excited about the selection, writing, quote, "Vote blue. Kamala's VP pick is official. Tim Walz. There is hope for the first time in a long time in the country. I am coconut pilled. I am balls to the walls," end quote. The reference to the balls to the walls is, sadly, apropos. But do note, it's your children's balls Walz wants to the walls, so he has something to lean them against as he consents to them being chopped off. This is, after all, his obsession. I have to admit the balls to the walls comment was creative. I wonder if the commenter knows how it applies to Harris's selection for vice president contender and what he's really about. Do you? Walz is the man who signed an executive order to allow children to travel to Minnesota, even without their parents' permission, to receive so-called gender-affirming health care, which is an oxymoron because creating legislation to allow confused children to change their sex, which we all ought to know is impossible to truly do, rather than providing counseling, support, and the truth that they are perfect just as God made them, is anything but affirming. The gender affirmation, i.e., chopping off body parts, let's be blunt, only speaks the lie that you aren't good enough as God created you. There's your balls to the walls right there. This potential vice president, God forbid, is a proud radical, quote, who signed a law that strips parental protections from out-of-state teenagers and children who claim to want irreversible transgender medical treatment in Minnesota, end quote. He wants Minnesota to be the refuge state children can run to. CBS News Online reported in March 2023 that the executive order, quote, instructs state agencies to protect access to these healthcare services, and unless compelled by court order, they are to not comply with investigations in other states where surgeries or treatments are banned or seriously limited, end quote. Reportedly, the law would also, quote, strip custody from parents who did not consent for their child to be transitioned. John Helmberger, who is the CEO of the Minnesota Family Council, said, quote, so-called gender-affirming healthcare is in reality a way in which the medical establishment victimizes vulnerable young people, often with lifelong negative health effects, end quote. Look, science backs this up, but Walz is proud to be a co-conspirator, and Harris is a passenger on the train with him. Furthermore, Walz is nicknamed Tampon Tim because he put his signature on laws to install tampon dispensers in bathrooms. And while there are clueless people praising this, understand we're talking about boys' bathrooms for, you know, the girls who are identifying as boys, and because they're really not, are on their periods and may need a tampon. How did we even get to this place in our society? And why are people playing along? Harris obviously aligns with Walz. Well, she holds the record as the most far-left senator, which isn't something she would even debate. So she picked a running mate who is as far left, if not more, in Walz. It's important to her, as she said in 2017, that we all, quote, stay woke. And I further quote her, quote, we have to stay woke, like everybody needs to be woke. Laugh, laugh, laugh. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. More laugh, 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 unquote. Listen, she means it. Perhaps being woke included allowing Minneapolis to burn, as her running mate permitted during the George Floyd riots of 2020. Of course, all indications are that Harris was set to choose Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, but opted not to. No, not just because he's Jewish, her husband is too, but because he is an observing, outspoken, pro-Jewish Jew who has called out pro-Hamas sentiments, to put it mildly. So although she has to win Pennsylvania to win the presidency, although Shapiro is much younger, more charismatic, and again, the governor of Pennsylvania, she's willing to take her chances and roll with the radical over the religious Jew. Not saying Shapiro isn't a leftist too, but Harris's decision to blow him off, reportedly last minute, may mean he isn't the wokest. So we see what her focus is, what she's willing to risk, and what radical direction she plans to take her campaign and, God forbid, her presidency. So Shapiro is out and Walz is in, but not for me. The YouTube commenter said, vote blue. That wasn't hardly happening anyway. Harris is as radical as they come, has no accomplishments as vice president, and failed miserably at the one thing we know she was tasked to tackle, the border. I could go on with why she's a disaster. But if I were inclined, again, God forbid, to look twice in her direction as a presidential candidate, one no one voted for, by the way, understand this. I have zero tolerance for people who do bad by children under the pretense or delusion, either could apply, of doing them good, and who trample on the rights of parents, who would do anything to get more balls to the walls. I don't know why Walz is as freaky as he is, but I don't want him anywhere near any child I know. And I don't want him anywhere near the vice presidency either. Balls to the walls. So there is my perspective about what's going on in the nation right now. Obviously, President Biden was given the old heave ho, and they got Kamala Harris in there, and she's a far leftist. And don't be offended if you are a Democrat or whatever. Don't be offended that I'm saying that. She would not argue with you at all. She's proud of it, and therefore she picked someone who aligns with that, went in his direction, because Shapiro was too much of, she was the pro-Hamas crowd, the young people on the college campuses acting all wild and all this stuff, the anti-Jewish sentiment. Well, Shapiro wasn't going for that, and it was going to be a battle. And so I guess reportedly that's why she went with Tim Walz, who is as radical, if not more, like Kamala Harris. I mean, I could go on. I could say more about Harris and Tim Walz. There's absolutely no way. So the vote blue, I thought that was catchy, though, the balls to the walls. The only thing is, yeah, he really literally wants your kids' balls to the walls right before kaboom, they chop them off. I don't understand. Let me tell you about me, for those of you who don't know, new to the channel, don't know me at all. I'm pro-life, I'm pro-child, I'm pro-education. I taught for nearly 20 years, 7th grade English. I have come up and spoken out and fought against libraries for pornography, child pornography in the children's section of the library. I believe that children are a beautiful gift from God, and what we should be doing is supporting them. So when a child comes and says, oh yeah, I'm confused, chop off my penis, chop off my breast. No, I don't think adults should be going, okay, and not only that, you go ahead and sneak on over and we'll protect you. And we want to take away the rights of your parents if they want to stop you from doing that. No, you're not getting my vote with that. I mean, I'm not a Democrat anyway. So that wouldn't happen anyway, but it certainly wouldn't happen if I was inclined now to think about these policies where children are being sexualized in our culture, and where instead of saying, you know what, you're going through some stuff right now, let me truly affirm you. Let me truly affirm your value. Let me tell you that it's okay that you're feeling confused, but you're still a child. And so, no, we're not going to say, yeah, come on over here and let them have gender affirming care, meaning these surgeries where they totally mess you up, which we know, and there are numbers behind it, causes all kinds of trouble, even mental trouble, suicide, all this stuff. I don't know what his deal is. The tampons in the boys' bathrooms, because of the transgender agenda, people are precious no matter what they're going through, no matter what. And so we need to come alongside them and support them, not cut them all up, not throw them in girls' bathrooms, and not pretend that what is not is, and not pretend that what is what is not. And although I could go on concerning my, why I would not vote for Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris. And again, if you know me, you know why. If you've been a part of the podcast, you know why. So no, that wasn't happening anyway. But this ticket, it's a hard no. Not happening. And so I'm going to say what I said, what I say all the time. And that is, if you have a comment, please do so respectfully. If we have to agree to disagree, then let's do that. And again, there are some of you who are going to say, I don't agree with your politics. And, and it's like going into the store. You don't like what they offer. And so you say, you know what, if I want such and such, then I'll go to that store and then I'll come back here for what I want from your store. Hopefully we can do that. We can agree to disagree. And then if you agree, I want to hear from you too. Okay. Because we got to stand for what's right. And so that's what I do. And I thank you for your attention. I thank you for your support. If you've not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We are growing. We are nearing 16,000. I appreciate that. And I will catch you next time. Maybe it'll be a basketball edition next time. You never know, because A to Z, Adrienne is on it. God bless you abundantly, and God willing, I'll see you soon enough.